Most people are marketing on hope rather than a strategy. Like, I hope that when I put this piece of content that I edited for 10 hours and then I was going to delete will work. I hope that when I post this beautiful before and after that I'm just going to get all the inquiries. And look, you might have those big financial goals, but they just don't really feel real. Posting content without a plan, so everything just starts to feel like you're winging it. Hello and welcome back to another episode on the Beauty Industry Leaders Podcast. I'm your host, Sammy Kennedy, and today I'm finally back with Elli again after 4.5 months of separation. Elli, how are you feeling? Where have you been? What have you been up to? Give me the down low.
Well, it's safe to say by now we've birthed the baby, which
Wait.
Yeah, sorry, I did it all. I don't even know why I'm trying to acknowledge my husband. I definitely did it all. It was really, really good birth journey. I won't bore you all with that, but he was pretty amazing. I went in at 7 a.m. and I was home for dinner. So Wonder Woman right here.
Were you natural or did you have a C-section?
Natural.
Job.
Just, I think it was about 4 hours, maybe active labour, we should say. I wasn't expecting to walk into the hospital halfway there, but I did. And he was just perfect. Nothing was wrong. So they said at 9 o'clock, oh, you can go home at lunch. And I said, okay, rightio. I suppose we'll get back into things then. But no, it's been really lovely 4 months of just downtime, being mum, enjoying all of those tiny little moments of your newborn journey. And I'm really excited for 2026 and just to get back into life, business life as well, you know, clients. And it's funny, someone said to me, like, how do you do it? How do you do it with kids and how do you do it with a newborn? Like, how is this happening? And, you know, you make no mistake, like you're not a one man show type situation. I do have help, but I think that when you are so passionate about something, you're just eager to get back into it. Like, and you're choosing the clients that you want to work with, you know, you're not just working with anyone. So when someone comes to you and you can feel that energy, like I'm working with this team next year and I know how much they're going to benefit from working with me. I just cannot wait to get in with them. And they're like, I don't care if baby's there, you know, like we'll make it work. So really excited for 2026 and we'll just keep navigating the way that looks with a baby and it'll be great.
What has been the hardest thing that you've had to change in your whole life now that you've got a newborn? Because obviously you've got Denver there and she's a little bit older. She can kind of handle herself. I love that you always say to me, like, when they're first born, they're just a little blob. Like they don't really do anything. So having to take yourself out of this business that was just exponentially growing in ways that you couldn't have imagined to now pausing and then having a baby, like how have you navigated that?
I think when you're a businesswoman and you're a mum, the mum in you will always come out first, but she feels sad for the business lady. Maybe that's a good way of saying it because she knows how much that businesswoman is thriving. Like I'm loving every second of it, but mum kicks in and you play that role. The hardest thing probably would be adjusting the lifestyle for Denver because Luke and I already know what we're doing, right? We've done this once before. It's much of the same, but it's a whole new chapter for Denver to share that love. And I think that was probably the most challenging part. And if I'm being completely transparent, you know, that mum guilt really kicked in about week 3 and I felt terrible. I felt like she's old enough to say, Mum, why do you always have to give him the boob when I need cuddles and things like that? And you'd be like, oh, you're really toying with me right now, sister. So,
and then your clients are like, hey, when can I start working with you? And you're like, I just can't be everything to everyone right now. I need a massage. I need a facial.
Yeah. I actually do need a massage. I feel like I need a massage. But yeah, that was probably the hardest part, just the Denver chapter. And, I think she goes through waves. Some days she's like, Mum, I love having a baby. And the next day she's like, I don't want the baby anymore. I'm like, well, we're not putting him back, darling. Sorry, that's not happening.
Oh my gosh. I think I was the same as Denver when I was a kid. My dad told me that when my brother was born, he had to buy a packet of lolly snakes and then put them near Mike and Mum just so I would go near him, because it was like I just realized that it's not all about Sammy anymore. There's this other person stealing my attention.
Mm.
Bless.
And when you're a switched on kid, you're a switched on kid.
Oh, yeah. Well, for my update, circling back, I have actually made a massive decision in the last week, which has really paid off. I had a meeting. Well, I actually got called up one night by one of my, I don't know if I would say he's a watch client because I don't really do his watches anymore, but, we've been keeping in touch over time, and he called me up and said, Sammy, what are you doing in your business, and where are you at, and what are you working towards? This is where I think you should pivot. There's a lot of opportunity here. And outside of all the business side of things, he said, sell all your shares and buy silver. And so he told me this probably about a month and a half ago, and silver was at $53 AUD. So I started watching all these YouTube videos. I started researching. I started looking at market trends. I started looking at the economy. I just deep dived like nothing I've ever done before, and really understanding history. When I was in high school, I completely tuned out to history. I was like, I don't care about World War I and World War II. But then I started remembering things about hyperinflation and what happened and how much gold would buy a house when money became useless. And there were just all these things that, when you say I didn't learn this at school or no one taught me, I don't think I was actually tuning in. And now that I'm at this stage, everything's coming back to me. So I sold all my shares and I ended up making a 2K profit. So I had about $13,500 to play with. And it took me probably about 4 days to get all my shares sold and then actually get the money hit my bank account. And then last Friday, I went and I bought 153 ounces of silver. So just to do the maths on this for you, I bought 153 ounces of silver at $88.45 per unit. So it cost me $13,532.85. Now today it's sitting at, and when I say today, it is Friday the 12th of December, it's sitting at $96.60 an ounce. So I've had a $1,246.95 increase in 6 days. So I waited like $1,200 essentially.
Oh, wow.
In 6 days. And so I waited 2 years essentially in my ETF to get a 2K return. And I've made this in 6 days, which is just insane. But why silver? Because it's in solar panels, it's in EVs, it's in medical equipment. And right now, there's way more demand for what we can actually collect each year. So when you're looking at where silver's at in the market, usually there's about like a 15-to-1 gold ratio. So there's like 15 pieces of silver to 1 piece of gold. But right now it's like 80 pieces of silver to 1 piece of gold. And then when you actually look at what happens when the ratio goes out so much, it will like reset and come back in. So that's how you make all your profit. And it's just blown my mind, like actually understanding how the economy works, how inflation works, how debt works, how consumer spending comes into play, what bonds are, what inflation actually means for interest rate hikes and cuts, and what actually goes on behind the scenes. So I feel like because I bought this, I just became obsessed and now learn everything. And it's actually one of those funny things. I never forget someone said to me, like, buy something and then you will learn everything about it, because you're like, what did I do with my money? And it's kind of like the inverse thing. Like I did the same when I did crypto, but crypto isn't necessarily backed by anything. I think there's a lot of opportunity there, but then fiat currencies all have 100% failure rate. So every single currency that has existed to date in the past that's just been like paper money has failed. And so we've got the ones we've got right now, like World War I and II. Before that, money was backed by gold. But then the US over printed money, and then they actually changed it so everything, like economies were backing their currency by the US dollar, which was then meant to be backed by a certain amount of gold. So then you look at something like crypto, which isn't backed by anything, but then technically some of our currency right now isn't either. So just learning about how money is printed and how it's devalued. And another interesting thing that I do want to add to this rabbit hole is that the CPI, which is talking about inflation, it might say it's only gone up 3% this quarter, but it's not. It's going up 10 to 30%. You can't tell me that your groceries at Woolworths have only gone up 3% because they haven't. And so I'm very skeptical of what the government says and what information is being pushed through the media, and actually looking at what are my costs and what am I seeing, and am I tracking this so I'm aware and I can safeguard my money. So yeah, that's kind of been my latest rabbit hole and what I've been doing behind the scenes.
You've just been researching the heck out of money and how to make more. I love it.
Literally. And I think that's like everyone's in a different stage of life, but because I'm in that younger stage, I can take more risks. So this is not financial advice. Do not do this just because I'm doing it. I wouldn't, if you were in your like 30s or 40s, I would not suggest selling all your shares and doing that. But it's the fact that I'm younger and I can take that higher risk. Otherwise I would have diversified and gone. But I was like, I reckon the market will crash within the next probably 18 months or so, and we'll start to feel things get worse before they get better. But it's just crazy when you look at the amount of debt that, you know, not even Australia, just America, everyone. And I'm like, who are they even in debt to? Like, who actually owns money? And then you just find out that, yeah, I don't know. Anyways, I'm not going to get into it. I will literally talk about this all day. But today we are building on part 2 of our marketing series, where you got crystal clear on your target market and ideal client. And so now that you know who you're speaking to, this episode is all about the piece most business owners overlook. And it's the game changer that sits underneath your content, your sales, your campaigns, and your revenue goals. And it's the ability to know your numbers and reverse engineer your marketing strategy from the exact income you want to hit. So when you understand this, marketing stops feeling like it's something you're hoping will work and starts becoming something you can actually predict. And I'm not even joking. I have seen this happen. Elli has done her annual marketing calendar with so many different business owners and teams, and they've seen a 20% growth at a minimum. I've seen a few double their revenue. I've seen a few triple their revenue, and it's because they started with the numbers. Most people are marketing on hope rather than a strategy. Like, I hope that when I put this piece of content that I edited for 10 hours and then I was going to delete will work. I hope that when I post this beautiful before and after that I'm just going to get all the inquiries. And look, you might have those big financial goals, but they just don't really feel real. You're posting content without a plan, unsure how long to promote it for, you're unsure how many clients you need, or what kind of content actually gets your offers selling out. So everything just starts to feel like you're winging it.
And you know what, Sammy, when everything feels like you're winging it, your results really reflect that. And you know, it's not because they're not talented or because your content's bad, but because there was never that clear target guiding your actions. And I feel like that's when income plateaus. Plateaus. That's the word I'm looking for. And engagement drops. And then you start second guessing yourself or handing things off to someone else in the hope that they magically fix it. But I feel like even the best marketer in the world can't build momentum if there's no strategy underneath it.
Oh, exactly. And most business owners in our industry, they're still using marketing strategies from years ago without realizing how much has changed. Your clients have changed, their behavior has changed, the trust process has changed, and the content that stops people mid-scroll has changed too. And if your content isn't taking someone on a journey, helping them understand their own problem, showing them the transformation, and building trust along the way, they'll scroll right past it. Not because they're not interested, but because they don't see themselves in what you're posting.
And that's what Max thinks, clearly. When you have a clear revenue target, I feel like you're suddenly able to reverse engineer your marketing, but you're doing it with intention. So the posts that you're posting have purpose, the campaign that you've put together actually has structure, and your content has momentum. So you stop wasting time. My clients stop guessing and they finally see why strategizing gives them the freedom. So before we break this down in a way that feels simple, grounded, and genuinely achievable for your business, here are some of the challenges that some of my clients had that may also be relatable to you. So you want to make an extra 50,000, but it just feels out of reach because they don't have a clear plan to get there. You're unsure on what to post, so in the end, your content feels random and inconsistent. You don't know how many services or products you actually need to sell to hit your goal. You're unsure how long to market it for, how often to post, or what a proper campaign timeline should look like. Your income has plateaued, even though you're working harder than ever. You're spending money on marketing support, but without a strategy underneath it, nothing is changing. And what worked 2 to 3 years ago isn't working now, and you're not sure what to do differently. Engagement is low, conversations are unpredictable, and bookings feel inconsistent. And you're posting beautiful work, but it's not taking clients on a journey that builds trust or leads to bookings.
I have felt, experienced, and seen all of these over and over again, like both being a beauty business owner, but then also being a coach, also having Instagram, like all of these things do happen. And I think the biggest challenge is that you end up spending so much time, money, and energy on your marketing. But without a clear plan or target, everything feels unpredictable. So when you think of it, Ellie, a marketing campaign is essentially like a good skincare routine. You can't just slap on one serum and expect flawless skin overnight. You need a treatment plan, a sequence of aftercare products to apply, and obviously you need consistency to get the result.
Sammy, I'm going to have to cut you there because that is the best analogy that I've ever freaking heard when it's come to marketing. And I feel like I am going to copy and paste that and put that in my marketing thing because you're so right. So, all right, keep going, girlfriend. I had to cut you off there and keep going.
Well, cold audiences are like skin that's never been treated. So it needs education, it needs prep, and it needs time before it transforms. So you don't just go straight into skin needling, or although I know some people do, you don't just put on the most heavy duty peel Cosmolarm with no prep. Like you've got to take that time. You've got to do the consultation. You've got to prep the skin. You've got to warm them up. And then when they're ready and they're at the right stage in their journey, then it's relevant. So a campaign provides each step. It warms them up until they're hot and ready to buy. Let's talk about the exact process that both Ellie and I use with clients to turn a vague revenue goal into a clear, achievable step-by-step plan. So this is where your whole marketing strategy finally becomes tangible.
Step 1 really is to define the exact goal. And I start by choosing the number that I want to make. So I don't necessarily look at everything and go, oh, I want more bookings, or I want my rent to be ticked off this month, or I want to sell this specific product, all of them out. Ask yourself first and foremost, how much additional revenue do I want this month or for the campaign period? How many team members do I have available to actually service? And how many hours per week can they deliver? And on an average, what's the dollar amount per service that you want to achieve? And I feel like this tells you what's possible based on your current capacity. If the numbers don't align, that's when you adjust your pricing, you promote different services, or you increase the availability.
I really love what you said there about asking yourself those questions, because when I have conversations with business owners, it's always that goal of I want to be fully booked, or I want to make 100K, or I want to make $500,000 or $1 million. And I always question, like, what does fully booked look like for you? Or if you had that revenue goal, how did you come up with it? Is it a shiny number? And I remember when I was speaking to Michelle Rule, who's one of my mentors, she does investing and she helps you find out your financial freedom number. And I was learning about how you actually calculate your financial freedom number, which I can do in another episode. This is not really relevant right now, but it's all about if you actually knew how much profit you wanted to make, you would reverse engineer your revenue goals based on that. Or if you wanted to retire with your financial freedom number, you would know how much assets you need, what you need to have invested, what the percentage is that they're returning to actually figure that out. So just choosing a shiny, fancy, round number that everyone else is doing doesn't actually serve you, because it tells me you don't actually have clear financial goals. So like Ellie's saying, like figuring out, okay, do we want a 20% increase this month? Cool. What's the monthly revenue? Times that by 1.2. Okay, cool. This is how much we're actually aiming for. And then take that number from what you've currently been making and figure out, okay, this is the dollar amount we're working towards. Then we can look at the team members available. Then we look at how many hours are actually available. What's the average dollar amount? And it just all starts to feel a lot more real. So the second part of this, following on from what Elli has taught, is that you need to choose your campaign strategy. So once you know your revenue target, you choose the pathway to get there. And there's three main ones that we like to use. So the first one is you can promote your most popular service. And the reason why is because it's usually easy to sell because people already want it. You can see that there's demand. If it's got bookings, if you've been having consistent revenue coming through, like don't break something that doesn't need to be broken. If it's already working, then you can leverage off it. The second thing that you could potentially promote in a campaign is featuring a service that starts clients on a long-term journey.
That's my favorite.
It's so smart, right? Because why would I want to go do this promotion for this really fancy high-ticket skin treatment that probably actually needs some prep work beforehand and isn't going to convert as many new customers as a first-time facial, where you do a consultation, you map out that treatment plan. So being really smart about how you're actually looking at the client journey, not just the service you're offering, like where are the majority of your clients at and how can you make it the least barrier to resistance of just coming in for a service, that will build lifetime value, not just one-off bookings. And then the third one is that you could create a strategic promotional offer. So this is something designed to solve a specific problem and convert quickly. So strategic promotions could be, and I know Elli, you do this really well. Can you tell us a bit more about like how you do your strategic promotions where you get one quarter they set up and then you get a second quarter, you've got a different service?
Yes. So I think that I take a lot into considerations when I'm building a campaign or a promotion, because it's not just we want to highlight this facial this month or what you're essentially saying, but more or less where we sit in the first promotion, ideally you would like to have the ability to lead them into multiple different areas. Now that may then flow into the next promotion, which will come hand in hand right at the time that they almost finish up the servicing of the first promotion. Because the way I run promos or like to is they purchase more than one. So if there's 3 months between promo 1 and promo 2, they've had 3 services just as they're coming to the end. And from a, mental space, when you purchase something, it's been 3 months ago. So they've almost forgotten, is this girl math? They've always forgotten that they spent all that money and they've been getting serviced for the last 3 months. Now we're here. This is when we need to go, oh, there's another promo that's popped in. I'll buy that. And then they step into the next one. Now, not always are they going to step into the next promo because it depends what your business structure is like, what you're servicing, what you're actually doing, but you're still setting them up to move to another direction in the business. Step 3, guys, let's do the revenue maths. So this is the part that makes people breathe again because suddenly the goal feels achievable. And you use this simple formula. You've got your target revenue divided by the price of the service, which is going to equal the number of clients needed. And then you break it down even further. So we're dividing the number of weeks by the number of team members, and then we're going to check if the hours are available to match the demand. Now, the big goal becomes small, and then we have actionable steps.
Okay, for the person who's not a maths girly and they're thinking, what the hell, how does this make sense to me? Let's do a visual breakdown. So let's say you wanted to make $20,000 extra this month. Your average service cost is $200, or the one service that you're promoting, is $200. So $20,000 divided by $200 equals 100 clients needed for the month. Then you can break that down again. All right, well, if 100 clients sounds like a lot, but if we divide that by 4 weeks in the month, well, it's only 25 clients per week. Now, let's say you have 5 team members. 25 clients per week divided by 5 team members means you only need 5 clients per team member. So all of a sudden we've gone $20,000. That feels like a lot. That's unachievable to, all right, well, we only need 100 clients a month, 25 clients per week. And since we've got 5 team members, if we spread that across, we only need 5 new clients per team member each week. That feels tangible. That feels achievable. And what you might do is go, hey, maybe doing that in 1 month is unrealistic. Let's spread it across 2. So then the numbers halve even more. But can you see how breaking that big goal down into something so small it feels achievable? You can start ticking off these little milestones in the lead up to your goal and you will feel good about it. So this is real. It feels achievable. It feels like a plan. And this is the missing step that most people in all goal setting fail to do, honestly. They fail to break down the steps of how they're going to achieve their goal. So if you're the new year, new me person and you're like, I want to lose weight, I want to put on muscle, I want to run a marathon. I know these are all sporty ones, probably not helpful, but that's all that's going on in my life. They're the ones that I'm always surrounded around people. That's usually the main goals. I don't know, a lot other than making money, but I guess that says a lot about who I spend time with. But the people that fail those goals are the ones that don't have a plan. So if you have a goal, but you don't have actionable steps, consistent habits, things that you're actually doing every single day to work towards them. Here's a great goal. Imagine having all your transactions in Xero reconciled and you didn't have to scramble before BAS or tax time. If you leave it until the last minute, you're going to be super stressed. But if you did it daily or once per week, you would always be on top of it. So all these small, consistent habits, they lead to the bigger goal that we're all trying to achieve. And I think when you start to look at your goal setting that way as an action plan, treat it like a video game. If I show up, I'm moving closer towards the goalpost that I'm aiming for. The only people who don't achieve their goals are the ones who don't shift their mindset and habits. And that's where it all starts, in all the small things that you're doing, not the big things, because all the small things accumulate and they achieve the big thing.
And step 4, we want to explore different revenue pathways. So if you offer multiple services or packages, repeat the process for each one. So for example, it might be a brow lamination, $120. Skin treatments, $250. You've got your big package, might be sitting at $550. You want to calculate the service cost, multiply it by the number of clients, and then you'll get your revenue generated. Then mix and match until you reach a target. Suddenly, you've mapped out 3 to 5 different ways to hit the same revenue goal. And then this gives you so much flexibility with your campaign strategy.
I really love this because doing both step 3 and working backwards from your target revenue to the price of the service equals the number of clients needed, that's one way to figure out, okay, how many do I need to sell? But with what Elli's teaching in this side, you're actually doing kind of the opposite. You're going, this is the service I have. How many clients would I need to actually hit that revenue target? So both of these ways work, and it's a great way to project out your income. If you're one of my one-on-one clients, you would have that projection calculator. So it actually, you can put in the service, how much it costs, and then how many you need to sell, and then it will project out the current bookings revenue and then also what you would want to hit as your target and then where the opportunity potential is. So being able to understand your numbers, where you're headed, it's going to help give you so much more clarity on what you need to focus on in your marketing.
I appreciate that calculator so much, Sammy, because I actually was working with a client that had your calculator and I was like, we were doing the annual marketing calendar and I was like, so can you tell me this is this? And she was like, yeah, let me just get out my calculator. And I could see we're over Zoom and I could see her pulling it up and I was like, oh girl, you got the good contacts.
Yeah, if you need the calculator, DM me income projection calculator and we'll get you sorted. It's a game changer. Step 5 is to really choose the campaign path that aligns with your capacity. So this is your decision point. Once you see the numbers clearly, you got to choose which service fills the target fastest if you're trying to get cash in fast, or which service supports longer term bookings. So you don't want a one and done. You want someone who's going to either come back on a repetitive basis, whether they are going on a treatment plan or journey, whether they are getting consistent maintenance. Like the one and done clients, they're just not great because you put so much time and energy into marketing to them and then you waste all that time and money because they never come back. Which one of your team can realistically deliver this at scale? So make sure that you have the right team members in your business who can actually support you in achieving these goals. You don't want to have this unrealistic expectation that everyone needs to offer this premium service for this many clients, and some of them aren't trained, some of them aren't confident. So that might be, hey, we've got to spend some more time training up team, or it might be, hey, we've actually got to hire for this role or bring some new people in. And then lastly, which one aligns with season client or demand? So depending on what time of year it is, depending on where your clients are at in their journeys, you can be really strategic with the type of promotions or offers that you're bringing out. Realistically, your campaign should be based on what makes the most sense for your business and your clientele, not what's just trending online.
Yeah, and something to be mindful as well, Sammy, is which staff you have servicing for different treatments. So be mindful if someone is going on holidays and you're thinking, oh, I want to promote this for this month, and that's the only staff member that can actually perform the service. You need to be mindful to switch up the strategy. And I suppose with this information, we now know what services and products we need to focus on to promote the campaign period. So when you break your goal into real numbers, suddenly marketing becomes less overwhelming and it's a lot more intentional.
I completely agree. And with what we're teaching you here, it's probably not what you want straight away. You want the fancy marketing strategy that's going to make you $1 million. But here's the thing, this is what will make you $1 million, because you'll figure out what you actually need to sell so that you know what you need to promote to actually make that $1 million. What we're going to do is wrap up this episode here, because I know maths isn't everyone's favorite topic, but next week's episode is going to be where all of this starts tying in together. The market research, understanding your ideal client and target market, and then knowing your maths numbers, or your marketing maths, let's call it, so that we know exactly what targets, what services we're promoting. And then next week is all about your actual campaign strategy. Like, what topics do you need to hit? What frequency are you posting? What does the content need to be about? How do we do it? This is where it all ties in together. And you will find, if you actually listen to these episodes sequentially, there's nowhere that you can't fail, because it's giving you all the things that the shiny marketing courses out there who are telling you the latest algorithm hacks and real strategy, like they work for a while and they stop working. This is based on consumer psychology. We know how humans behave. We know what works for their minds. We know what gives them that trigger to take action. So if you're keen, make sure that you tune in for next week's episode, where we go through that 8-week campaign strategy and how you're going to actually hit your marketing maths goals.
I'm excited.
Amazing. Well, thank you so much for listening in today. Thank you for coming back onto the podcast, Elli. It was amazing to have you. I hope you all have an amazing week, and we will catch you for the next episode. Bye.
See you guys.
Audience exclusive.